Imagine walking out of your front door right now, heading into the desert with nothing but a handgun and a bottle of water, and just never returning.
Yeah, that is a chilling thought.
Right. Now imagine you hold America's highest nuclear secrets.
That completely changes the stakes.
Exactly. Welcome to this deep dive. We are unpacking the alarming real-world mystery of the vanishing Vanguard. I mean, we are talking about a string of dead or missing U.S. scientists. We've got intelligence reports, news clippings, Fox News interviews with former FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker, and some wild historical records.
It is a massive amount of data to sort through.
It really is. And our mission today is to figure out what is happening to these defense researchers and, what it actually means for the security of our nation. Because you need to know what's going on here.
Absolutely. The raw data we're looking at paints a very unsettling picture. We're not just looking at a random list of names.
Right.
We are looking at a pattern that targets the absolute pinnacle of American defense research. To really understand the threat, we have to look at the underlying mechanisms of these events.
So let me give you the 90-second rundown. Since 2023, 10 highly cleared American scientists and defense researchers have vanished or turned up dead.
10 of them.
10. And these experts, they range in age from 34 to 79. We are talking about the patriots who build our nuclear systems. They design advanced aerospace technology. Now, President Trump, the White House, and the FBI are actively investigating this expanding pattern to determine if foreign spies are, hunting America's top minds on our own soil.
All of them holding access to incredibly sensitive, highly classified information, just gone.
It's terrifying. We are talking about people who held the keys to America's defense. And to me, the scariest part isn't just that they are gone, it is how they left. This whole situation feels like a locked room mystery, but on a national scale.
Yeah, it really does.
So how do heavily monitored individuals with top secret clearances just, fall off the face of the earth?
Well, to understand how they disappear, we really have to look at the incredibly specific, almost eerie physical pattern of their departures. Out of these 10 individuals, 5 vanished completely.
Just vanished.
Exactly. They did not take a flight. They did not pack a bag. They literally left their homes on foot.
And they took almost nothing with them, right?
Right. They carried a handgun and, in some cases, a bottle of water. That's it. They deliberately abandoned essential lifelines. We're talking about wallets, keys, and cars left just sitting in the driveway.
That is insane.
In one case, a 68-year-old retired Air Force Major General named William Neal McCasland left behind his prescription glasses and his daily medications.
Okay, that detail about the glasses really trips me up.
Yeah, it's strange.
I mean, you do not just go for a casual walk in the New Mexico desert without your prescription glasses or your blood pressure pills. A 68-year-old man wandering into a harsh landscape lined is not a casual stroll. It reads like a forced march.
It definitely breaks normal human behavioral patterns.
Yeah.
And it gets even more alarming when we look at the specific roles these people played in our national defense. Take Stephen Garcia, for example.
Okay.
He vanished in August 2025. Garcia worked as a property custodian at the Kansas City National Security Campus, down in their Albuquerque facility.
Wait, just to give you some context on why that facility matters, the Kansas City National Security Campus manufactures more than 80% of the non-nuclear components for America's entire nuclear arsenal.
That is a staggering number.
80%, that is the nervous system of our nuclear deterrent.
And Garcia held a top security clearance there. He oversaw tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in nuclear assets. Some of it was classified, some unclassified, but he had supervisory access across the entire site. He understood where materials were, how they were moved, and who handled them. Then one day, he just walks out of his house with a handgun and vanishes. But the physical erasure, that is only half the story. The digital erasure is where this stops looking like a coincidence and starts looking like actual tradecraft.
Right, because leaving your wallet behind is one thing. Erasing your entire digital existence is a whole different level.
Exactly. Look at Melissa Cassius. She worked as an administrative employee at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Also held a top security clearance. She disappeared in June 2025.
Los Alamos, man, that's heavy stuff.
It is. When investigators went to her home, they found both her personal phone and her government work phone. But they were not just left on the kitchen counter. They were subjected to a factory reset. All the data was wiped completely clean.
See, a factory reset isn't just tapping a button by accident in your pocket.
Not at all.
You have to navigate through multiple warning menus, enter passwords, and bypass biometric security. It is a highly intentional, multi-step process designed to permanently scrub forensic pathways.
Which is incredibly significant from an investigative standpoint. A factory reset destroys location data, communication logs, and recent contacts. It is an active counter-surveillance measure.
Wait, hold on. I have to play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
People go completely off the grid voluntarily every day. Burnout in these high-stakes defense jobs has got to be massive. You are managing hundreds of millions in nuclear assets. The pressure from the government is immense. Couldn't this just be the ultimate form of quitting? Like someone snaps, wipes their phone so their boss can't find them, and just walks into the desert?
Burnout is definitely real. But the voluntary walkaway theory completely falls apart when we look at the other half of this group.
The fatalities.
Right. The 5 scientists who did not vanish, but instead met violent or unexplained ends. You cannot voluntarily choose to be murdered.
Good point. That really changes the framing.
Let's look at the fatalities. Nuno Loureiro was a brilliant plasma physicist. He directed the Plasma Science and Fusion Center at MIT.
Plasma science. So we're talking advanced energy.
Advanced energy, yeah. It involves controlling matter at extreme temperatures, which is foundational for next-generation energy and advanced weaponry. In December 2025, he was fatally shot inside his own home. The shooter was a former classmate.
Wow.
Then you have Carl Grillmeyer, a 67-year-old astrophysicist connected to Caltech and NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab.
Grillmer worked on infrared telescopes, right?
He did. And infrared telescope technology is directly applicable to tracking hypersonic missiles.
Hypersonic missiles, that is a major national security focus right now.
Exactly. Tracking those isn't just looking through a lens. It's about detecting objects moving at a mile a second in entirely unpredictable patterns. It is the holy grail of modern defense tracking. And Grillmeyer was fatally shot right on his front porch by an unknown attacker.
The sources note the shooter and Grillmeyer did not even know each other. No motive was ever publicly released. It is just a random Tuesday, and you get shot on your porch at 6 in the morning. That does not sound like workplace burnout.
No, it sounds like a hit. And then we have the deaths that simply have no explanation at all. Michael David Hicks and Frank Maywald.
Who were they?
Both were highly respected scientists at the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. They worked on advanced space instrumentation and near-Earth asteroid tracking. They died in 2023 and 2024, respectively. But there are no publicly disclosed causes of death, no autopsies on record. They just died.
Which is incredibly rare. For a sudden death of a relatively healthy person, there's almost always a medical examiner report, a cause of death. But the public record is just blank.
Completely blank.
And then there is the case that really haunts me. Monica Jacinto Reza.
Yeah, that one is terrifying. She was a 60-year-old aerospace engineer. She co-invented a high-performance superalloy called Mondalloy.
Mondalloy.
Right. It's designed to withstand the extreme temperatures and pressures of next-generation rocket engines. Without materials like that, advanced propulsion simply melts. In June 2025, she was hiking in the Los Alamos National Forest in California with friends.
She wasn't even alone.
Exactly. She stepped away, just 30 feet from her group, and vanished into thin air. She was never found.
30 feet. You can still hear someone stepping on twigs at 30 feet. It's like someone is playing chess against the U.S. military, but instead of attacking the pieces on the board, they're quietly assassinating the players.
That is a great way to put it.
Because these are not random community college labs. These victims connect directly to a tight, heavily guarded web of defense institutions. We're talking Los Alamos, Kirtland Air Force Base, the Kansas City National Security Campus, and NASA JPL. So, if we connect these dots, are we looking at a statistical anomaly or a targeted strike against American rocket propulsion and nuclear tech by foreign spies?
Well, to determine if this is a coordinated strike by a hostile power, we actually have to look back at history. What's fascinating here is that this exact scenario has allegedly played out before.
You were talking about the 1980s Marconi mystery.
Yes. According to the historical sources, between 1982 and 1990, 25 British scientists and engineers died under highly mysterious circumstances. They worked for the defense group General Electric Company, specifically a subsidiary called Marconi.
These scientists were tied to some heavy Cold War projects, weren't they?
They were. They worked on the Stingray torpedo and the U.S. Strategic Defense Initiative.
Which most people know as the Star Wars program.
Exactly. The fatalities back then were bizarre.
Oh.
One scientist died from carbon monoxide poisoning in his garage.
Okay, sadly common.
Sure. But another tied a rope to his neck, tied the other end to a tree, and then got in his car and drove off.
What?
Yeah. A third packed his car full of petrol containers and crashed it into a building. At the time, conspiracy theorists went wild. They blamed the Soviet KGB, they blamed American spies, they blamed British intelligence.
I mean, that rope and tree situation sounds less like an organic suicide and more like a rejected trap from a James Bond movie. It's incredibly over-engineered.
It is.
But I have to push back here again. The internet loves a good conspiracy theory. You string together a few weird deaths, add some spooky music, and suddenly it's an international plot. The authorities back in the 1980s eventually ruled that entire cluster of Marconi deaths as a tragic string of suicides and accidents.
They did.
No official links were ever found. So how do we separate internet paranoia from a legitimate threat in these modern cases?
We separate them by looking at the actual mechanisms and the stark differences between then and now. In the 1980s Marconi cases, there were no actual disappearances. Everyone was found.
Ah.
Furthermore, while the conspiracy theorists claim they all worked closely together on top-secret projects, the historical record shows most of them actually worked on separate, mostly unclassified projects. They just happened to work under the same massive corporate umbrella.
Okay, that makes sense. A giant company has thousands of employees. Statistically, over an 8-year period, a cluster of tragedies might just be a terrible coincidence.
But contrast that with today's U.S. cases. These modern scientists hold genuine top-secret clearances. They are not just under one corporate umbrella. They are spread across interconnected military and scientific institutions.
Right.
They literally build the components that make our nuclear and aerospace systems function. And most importantly, we have genuine, unexplained disappearances combined with deliberate digital erasure. A factory-wiped phone is not a suicide. A factory-wiped phone is a counter-surveillance tactic used by professionals.
And the other major difference is how the government is reacting right now. Back in the 80s, the British government basically shrugged it off as coincidence, despite some lawmakers demanding answers. But right now, the highest levels of power in the United States are sounding the alarm. President Trump and the White House are actively working with the FBI.
Which is unprecedented.
White House spokespeople have stated they are holistically reviewing all 10 of these cases to identify any potential commonalities. They're not treating these as 10 isolated local police matters anymore. They recognize the threat to our homeland.
That shift in perspective changes everything. The difference between internet paranoia and a real threat is validated by the official response. We reviewed insights from Nicole Parker, a former FBI special agent who spent over a decade in the Miami field office focusing on violent crimes and fugitives.
Oh yeah, from her Fox News interviews.
Right. In her interviews, she emphasizes the FBI's unique capability here.
Because local police jurisdictions don't talk to each other like that. A local detective in Massachusetts investigating a shooting is not going to cross-reference a missing persons report from a sheriff in New Mexico. They don't have the bandwidth or the database integration to do that.
But the FBI does. Parker notes that the highly specialized classified nature of these victims' work is the common denominator that justifies federal involvement. The FBI can pull the employment records, look at the security clearances, and map the overlap between a plasma physicist at MIT and an aerospace engineer in California.
And it is not just the executive branch. Congress is getting heavily involved. Representative Eric Burleson from Missouri formally requested FBI involvement. And then you have Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee claiming this pattern has a chilling effect. He's even teasing upcoming congressional briefings that might link figures like the missing Major General McCaslin to UFO and UAP intelligence.
And regardless of anyone's personal stance on UAPs, the fact that a sitting congressman is bringing it up shows that the government views these individuals as holding incredibly sensitive, paradigm-shifting knowledge. The sheer value of what is in their heads makes them targets.
Absolutely.
But perhaps the starkest warning comes from former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker. He stated point blank that hostile foreign intelligence services actively target and sometimes assassinate rocket propulsion and nuclear scientists.
He used the word assassinate, not monitor, not harass, assassinate.
Yeah, and if you're wondering why this matters for your daily life, you have to look at the broader implications.
Yeah.
It is very easy to view this as just a true crime story or a spy thriller playing out on the news. But this is fundamentally about the safety of the systems that protect the entire country.
It feels like trying to solve a puzzle where half the pieces have been deliberately hidden. If foreign adversaries really are taking out our top minds on American soil, what does that mean for the average citizen's safety going forward?
It means the shield is cracking. Think about it mechanically. The U.S. military advantage relies entirely on advanced technology, hypersonic missiles, nuclear deterrence, satellite tracking.
Right.
If you remove the architects of that defense, the defense itself becomes vulnerable. You do not have to steal the blueprints to a rocket engine if you simply eliminate the single aerospace engineer who knows how to mix the superalloy that keeps the engine from melting.
That is a terrifying thought. The attack isn't on the missile silo. The attack is on the mind that built the silo.
Exactly. The intellectual capital is the actual target. And the fact that they can do it so cleanly, leaving a gun, walking into the desert, wiping a phone with a multi-step factory reset, suggests a highly sophisticated operation. These are not random acts of street violence or sudden mental breaks.
No.
This requires planning, surveillance, and execution. And if an adversary can execute this on American soil, targeting our most heavily vetted citizens, it implies a level of operational vulnerability that affects everyone.
Man. We have covered a massive amount of ground today, so let's do a quick recap to bring this all together for you. Since 2023, 10 top-tier American scientists and defense researchers have vanished or died under bizarre circumstances.
10 patriots.
We are talking about the experts who oversee hundreds of millions in nuclear assets or invent new materials for rocket engines. They are leaving behind wiped phones, walking away into the desert, leaving their prescription glasses behind, or getting shot on their front porches by strangers. Now, the highest levels of the U.S. government, from the White House to the FBI, are hunting for the overarching pattern to see if a foreign adversary is actively dismantling our scientific vanguard.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final unsettling thought that builds on the evidence we have discussed today.
Lay it on us.
If a hostile power wanted to cripple a nation's defense, they wouldn't need to bomb a heavily guarded facility. They'd simply need to erase the knowledge stored in the minds of the people who run it. And in an era where our phones, our cars, our smartwatches, and our smart cities track our every single move, we have to ask ourselves, how does a person with top-level government clearance just vanish into the desert without leaving a single digital footprint?
How indeed. You know, we started this deep dive imagining walking out your front door and into the desert, leaving everything behind. It is a chilling image, and it is a nightmare that 10 American families are currently living through. Thank you so much for joining us and exploring this mystery with us today. Keep your eyes open, stay curious, and we will catch you next time.